and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us this week where we will be discussing Vincenzo. Did you like that Italian accent? That horrible Italian
Vincenzo
accent?
Cassano.
Anyway, Vincenzo is a K drama about a Korean born, Italian raised mafia lawyer who returns to Korea to reclaim a stolen fortune and gets caught up in a vendetta against the Babel Company. Vincenzo is a bit Ocean's 11 meets Godfather.
Ooh, I like that combo.
Yeah. So, what did you think about Vincenzo?
Of course, I'm the one that recommended it.
Oh,
And
God.
I have been talking about it. And like I've been talking about it nonstop since the first episode. So I was really, really excited when you agreed to do an episode on this show because it was amazing from beginning to end. Like so good. The acting, the drama, the action, the intrigue, like all of the craziness, because there's a lot of craziness in it. All of that was just like amazing. So yeah, definitely
I
my kind of show.
I agree. I will do a bit of a disclaimer though and say that Vincenzo was on my list. Unlike you though, I don't watch them weekly. I wait till they're all done and I'll just binge them at one time. But um yeah, it's as good as the previews. It is amazing. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there and say that I think it surpassed Itaewon Class as my favorite K drama.
I agree.
Like it takes a lot because Itaewon Class was like that first love. It was the first one that I truly watched, and I really loved it, and it was great. And it's still high on the list, but Vincenzo was it was phenomenal. Like I said, it takes a couple of my favorite things. Like I love gangsters, so anything with a gangster, I'm gonna watch it, and then I can determine whether or not it was good or bad from there. But um, and then just to caper the capers that they pulled off, it was kind of like Ocean's 11. So it was probably a mix between those two things, and it was phenomenal. Like you said, everything from the acting to the casting, the acting, the plots. It's a bit longer than the normal series. I wasn't expecting it to be 20 episodes, but again, as a binge watcher, I I thought, okay, how am I going to plan this out to get it done in time for the week? And I didn't have that problem at all because it was like I found myself watching 5 or 6 in one day, and I was just like, oh. And when it was over, I was like, I have this Vincenzo size hole in my heart. What am I going to do now?
That's because
So
it's like so good. Like you can't watch just one.
you can't. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go pace myself and do two. I couldn't. It was just like I watched literally until I was just dead tired and couldn't read anymore and couldn't concentrate anymore and had to go to bed. And yeah, it was just that good. Again, subtitles because the Korean dramas aren't dubbed, but it is amazing, worth the subtitles, worth the read. And if you love gangster stuff like I do and action and drama, then you would love this. It also had one of my favorite things about it though is how it kind of interspersed the comedy in it, like it because it is dark. The subject matter is very, very dark, and just like the comedic moments were gold. Like the um so he basically, just a little backstory, he's adopted by an Italian family. Then he grows up to become a consigliere. Did I say it right? Ha! A consigliere, a mob lawyer. And when the head of his family dies, the son inherits the family and tries to kill Vincenzo. So he goes to Italy to reclaim a fortune that's in this building that he owns. And he kind of moves into the building and meets the wacky crew, who I call the Goo Goos because they are crazy. The wacky crew that lives there. And his initial plan is just to blow up the building, not with the people in it, but he just wants to blow up the building to get to the gold that's hidden in a secret basement in the building. But the more he gets to know the people there, he realizes that's their home, and he starts to care about them. So he doesn't want to displace them. So he's trying to find all these ways to get the gold out of the building. And in the meantime, the Babel company, they come in and they kind of steal the building out from under him. They purchase it illegally. So his fight initially is to get the building back and protect the people who live there as well. It's just really amazing. So, but yeah,
I feel
but
like you just fully summed it up.
well, that was the backstory. But so let's talk about the Goo Goos. Like they are batshit crazy, but they are so funny. And just like everything else on this show, they're not who they seem on the surface. Like they all have an amazing backstory, and they end up actually being kind of kick ass.
Yeah, I like them as well. I will say, like, although like I liked them and I understood like it was a little comedic and everything, they were not my favorite characters. Not to say I didn't love their characters, but if I had to talk about characters, like they would not be like my first. But I did like that there was a reason for their craziness, I guess, or for their distrust. They were very distrustful of Vincenzo when he first showed up, which is definitely justified, seeing as how he did not have the most honest intentions when he first showed up to the was the tower, right? To the tower. But I do like how they slowly show like they're welcoming him in as family, and then he doesn't even realize when he first starts to care about them, because I think like when I first really saw that is when the mom was going off on her son, which the lady that was in charge of the market, oh my god, like I forgot what her name is. Oh, Miss Walk. So Miss Walk was in charge of like the little local market in the building, and her son was like just a regular horrible teenager, and she'd be like, "Post up, come on, let's go," and she just like start boxing and like punching the crap out of her son, and he'd be like, "Come save me," and he'd be like, everybody just be looking like, "Nah, like it's just gonna be you and your mom." But then when he's going and he's smoking after his mom tells him that she doesn't want him to smoke, and Vincenzo catches him and he beats up the little delinquents, as they call them, up, and tells him like, don't smoke or whatever. I think that's when he first showed like he was starting to care about them without him even realizing. Like it snuck up on him. He didn't think he was gonna actually care about them.
Yeah, I think it actually came a little bit before that. I don't know it's kind of a moment you have to catch. It was when he and Mr. Cho were talking, and um, they were talking about how to get the gold out of the building. He's like, let's just get them out of there. And he's like, however we do it, we're going to have to do it without blowing up the building. Um, so like, cause when he first gets there, he was just like, okay, let's find a way to get him out. And he kind of knew, and he was set on that he would have to that he would have to demolish the building. And he was prepared to do that. But then at one point he just tells them, let's make that the absolute last resort, and Show kind of has this look on him like what changed, but he didn't ask. And like I said, it was just like a really random passing conversation. Show was just like, like he kind of questions like what changed, like why is it
Yeah,
all of a
but
sudden that
he was still planning on, because
he
I
was
still,
still planning on displacing them, like, but he
yeah,
still wanted
and
to get them out of the plaza. But at that point, it's like you say, it kind of sneaks up on you, like it's a subtle thing. It was okay. Can we do it without demolishing the building? So, like I said, it was just like, and I don't even think he realized it. It was just like, but that was just what he said. It was like, let's not blow up the building. But I think it becomes more and more obvious, yeah, when he does, like, uh tell the kid, hey, if I catch you smoking again next time, I'm gonna beat your butt too, and just little things like that. So but yeah, the Goo Goo, I call them I think it's Gugama Plaza, but I call them the Goo Goos. They are hilarious. And I love Mr. Lee, who comes across like the guy who couldn't bust a grape in a fruit in a food fight, but he is just he's always talking about this past, and he makes you think. He talks a good game, but it's just like when you see him, it's like in the few times that he had the first few opportunities that he has to fight, he doesn't fight, or he doesn't fight very well, and everyone's looking at him like, "Will you just shut up? Like, you can't fight." And it turns out that he actually can fight, as we find out towards the end of the series. So they were some of my favorites, the Goo Goos. I love the chef who could not cook, the Korean Italian chef who could not cook Italian food to save his life.
Yeah, he was my least favorite, but I like, he was too cliche for me. He was too cliche of a character, and he was the one character that had like no true background, like not a background that could actually truly like help the cause. He was just there. Like, he was just there. Like, even his background, when they went through and they showed like all of their backgrounds, he was the only one that did not have like a background that would contribute to the success of the mission or something. So I guess he was just wielding a pan and hoping he was hitting people. But yeah.
Yeah, I loved him. I thought he was funny, especially his interactions with Vincenzo. Like when Vincenzo would actually go, when he busted him and knew he wasn't really from Italy, or he never learned to cook in Italy. And then after that, he made it his mission to troll this man. Like, and he was like, "Oh, now I know what pizza covered garbage would taste like," or something like that. And it was just funny. But he could actually cook Korean food. He just couldn't cook Italian food to save his life. So yeah, I like the Goo Goos. They were. And my favorite one was Mr. Tack, though. The seams, I want to call him, I was about to say the
The
seamstress, but that's not what he was.
cleaners. He
The
owned the
cleaner.
cleaners.
Yeah, he owned the cleaner, the tailor actually. He Now he could work those scissors, like truly work those scissors, and it's like, oh yeah, Mr. Tack had a pass, but when you saw him swinging those scissors, you knew you were in trouble. So I like the Goo Goos. What else? Who was your favorite character besides Vincenzo?
Um, Hanso, the
The
younger brother.
Yeah, Hansel. I
Um,
I did
I
like
mean,
him.
yeah, we haven't talked about, we've kind of been on the Google game. But he was my favorite character because I think he had the best growth out of everyone on the show, which is, makes sense. But kind of, I felt like he was a little bit of like a psycho by force, or a villain. He was more of a villain by force rather than by choice. Like, he was a product of having a psychopath brother that was sent to America after he was after he killed a couple people, in order to protect him. And then he comes back, and because he's the older brother, he completely takes over and he puts the fear of God into his younger brother. And then his younger brother kind of acts up in a way of survival. I felt, the whole time, like, it was more of a survival tactics on how he acted in public than actually who he was. Because I think he recognizes, if he had like a different type of brother, then he would have been a different person. Because he slowly shows it later on when he becomes really close to Vincenzo. So he was definitely one of my favorite characters, just because I loved his growth. But he was also like funny, at the same time, and very self-aware in certain instances of who he was and the situation that he was in. So I really loved his progression. And he did a great job acting it. So yeah, my favorite character was him.
Yeah, I call him Baby Bro. I loved Baby Bro. At first he comes across as your stereotypical spoiled asshole. Um, and who runs a company, who just wants to be cute and rich and in all the tabloids and all that kind of stuff. He comes across as shallow and actually kind of stupid. And then, like you say, you realize that, oh, and it doesn't, and once people have a real conversation with them, like gosh, what was her name? The crazy lawyer lady? I forgot her name. Mrs.
Troy. Troy.
Choi, yes. Once Mrs. Choi has a real conversation with them and Vincenzo, they both go back. Vincenzo goes to Cha Young, and he's like, that's not the real head of the Babel company. Like they both automatically they both automatically know like this idiot cannot be the one who's in charge of this whole thing. Like and so but then it's like you realize, like you say, that it is mostly a survival mechanism, survival tactics, especially from him, the relate between him and the relationship with his brother, who was beyond batshit crazy. Um, so I loved his progression. I loved his growth. I loved his character. I wish we would have gotten to spend more time with this character. I really, really do, especially once he and Vincenzo became friends or brothers, more or less. I really would have loved to see been able to see a little bit more of that backstory, and just the progression of the relationship. Um, so I was, and I must say, I was quite sad when, spoiler alert, baby bro bit it. Like you knew it was coming, but it was still like, oh no, that motherfucker has to die. like, um,
I felt like in the like I was hoping they would do like a cliche thing and like have it where oh he died, but then at the end he would show up like they did for Mr. Lee on
yes,
how you're
y-
thinking like Mr. Lee died, but in the end you see that he did survive the stabs. So I was hoping that that would also happen for the for Han So. I was really hoping that because I would have loved to see who he could have become after his brother was taken out. Like what kind of
yeah,
person
and-
he could have because he could have ran the company based on the fact that he actually listened to the advice of Vincenzo and he started to actually educate himself and read and read books and learn who was who in the business world. Um so after that, like I really liked his character, but you know, his brother was too psychotic.
Yeah, I think, and I really think he could have probably turned the company around. And you saw that, like one of the first things he did when he was in charge is he stopped the reproduction of that drug. Um, and it was funny because once he took over for real, the way he treated Mr. Wan, what was that? Was that, I'm horrible with names, but the way he treated Mr. Wan, was that him, the lawyer?
Han.
Han, the way he treated Mr. Han, he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm gonna ride with Retinjo. He's better at this than you are."
Yo, that dude was a punk. Mr. Han was
Yeah,
a punk, yo. Like he was, yo, it was
but
horrible on how scared he was the whole time, but he was trying to act like he was big and bad. Like when Vincenzo told him to come and meet with him and he brought his whole he brought a whole security team and he knocking on the table telling them to come in and they didn't even know the sign.
and then Vincenzo's just looking like, "Really? Why am I doing?" Like, you know, and but yeah, so Mr. Han is a punk, but like that whole scene at the end with him and Han Sok where he was like, "But you could, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't know Vincenzo. You wouldn't even know Vincenzo. Like y'all wouldn't be cool." And Han So thinks about, he goes, "Yeah, yeah, you're right." And he gets up and he gives him a big hug. He's like, thank you so much." And then he was just like, "But nah, he's better at this shit than you are. I'm good. I'm gonna stick with Vincenzo." And then he just so nonchalantly calls his assistants, be like, "Yo, can you bring Mr. Han's car around? He's leaving now." I'm like, damn. Like baby bro grew up a lot, so I loved it. And his scene, I would have even been okay. And I know this is going to be, as you say, unpopular, but I would have been okay with Cha Young biting the dust, rather than baby bro. But that's just me.
They couldn't kill her off. They'd killed her father already.
I know, but still. But yeah, I'm with you. For once, I was wanting the cliche. Like I wasn't even happy. Like in speaking of the cliche ending with Mr. Lee, it's like y'all wasted it on a character that, okay. I was okay with Mr. Lee biting it. I really was. Like I understood it. It served its purpose. He went in a great cause and all that kind of stuff. So you could have used that to save baby bro, but that again, that's just me. Mr. Han, back to him. Yes, he was a punk, and um I hated him from the beginning. Like he just besides being the patsy, did he serve a purpose? Like,
He
he
was
was
a rich
probably one of my
lawyer.
least favorite he was probably one of my least favorite characters.
He was a rich lawyer. That was his purpose. Like he was a rich lawyer who was in charge of a law firm. Um, and he was good at it. He was good at it up until it became too serious. When he brought um Young Hee, which was the female lawyer, when he brought in Young Hee, thinking that, oh, she's gonna add some elements because she was a prosecutor and everything. Which is crazy because in Korea, every aspect of the law is extremely separated. So it's you like to become a judge, you don't have to be a lawyer before you become a judge, right? Like you just take a judicial exam, and if you pass it, you can become a judge. And then prosecutors are very different from the lawyers. Like, you know how we consider prosecutors, they're just lawyers, right? Who just happen to end up working for the government. But there, everything is very separate in the different aspects. So it's an insult when somebody calls you a prosecutor, while in America, it's not an insult to be called a prosecutor and to have worked, for the good of the people. Like, but there, like it was seen as an insult to be called a prosecutor, right? And of course, they're as corrupt as everyone else. But when he brought in Young Hee, like it was a wrap. Like it was done. And Cha Young knew. She knew because one of my favorite parts ever, because she was a G. I don't know, like she was a G. When um Miss Choi like tried to intimidate all the junior lawyers, and she thought she could do the same thing to Cha Young, and she was just like, no, come on and do an impression, She was just like, no, it's not really my thing. And she was just like, do an impression. And she was like, oh, okay, I have the perfect one to do. And then she did an impression of her doing Zumba. She was so pissed off. Like she was so pissed. But she never put fear into her. Like she was not scared one moment. Like she scared all the other lawyers. She intimidated the rest, but she never scared Cha Young. Like Cha Young just looked at her and was just like, your nails are in my neck. Can you please remove them? Thank you.
Yeah,
And
like,
just walked away.
and everyone else was afraid of Mrs. Choi or Young Hee except for Cha Young, and she thought, okay, does that make her crazy that she's not afraid of me? Is it an act? But it wasn't an act. She was just like, very little scared her, and or if it did, it didn't.
She
She
knew her
didn't show.
job. She knew she was an amazing. I think I honestly think it's because unlike the rest of them that could be intimidated because they lack the full confidence, she was confident enough in her skills and her talent that she could care less what the rest of them thought of her. Like that's why she had no friends. You ever notice like she had no friends? Like they were coworkers, but she had like she didn't have any like actual friends. It's because she didn't care what anybody thought. Like she had the talent, and that's why she couldn't intimidate her. Because unlike the rest of them, that would be like, oh my gosh, like she's the boss, like I have to bow down, and she's just like, yeah, you may have come in higher than me, but I still know I'm a really good lawyer, and he would be upset if I actually left. So yeah, go about your business. Go to the other ants.
Yeah. Um, but she does end up leaving when she finds out that her father, who had been warning her all along that her law firm was and she knew, she knew that they were corrupt, and there's some things she turned a blind eye to. um
She involved herself in some of it. Remember when she
yeah,
bribed the witness?
yeah, I mean, that's what I said. There's some things she turned a blind eye to, and then some things that she, especially after her dad, um and I don't think that it's not that she didn't believe her dad necessarily when he tried to tell her just how corrupt or how bad it really was. I think she didn't want to, because I think what he was saying was even a bridge too far for her. And so it was just like, oh, okay. But once they killed her dad, oh, all bets were off. And she ends up taking over her dad's law firm, and that's how her and Vincenzo end up becoming really close.
I don't think she
And
cared. I think she in some aspects I feel that is one reason why her and Vincenzo kind of connected, because they were a little cold in how they handle stuff. She had a job to do and she was going to do her job no matter what. So whatever her father was telling her, like she heard him, and she knew there was definite negatives about the company that basically ran her law firm. And she involved herself in some of that illegal activity. She definitely did. But she didn't care, like, because she was just like, at the end of the day, I'm making money and you're struggling for justice, and justice don't pay the bills. Like, I felt like that was a little bit her attitude. Justice don't pay the bills, but I'm making enough to pay my bills, like, while you're struggling. So get out my face, kind of thing. Like, but after her father died, she got emotional, and she was. I think she was more mad when she realized that there was an honest possibility that they killed her father, rather than it being like an accident. Like, when she realized there was something shady about her father died, that's when she was just like, okay, I'm done. Like, I quit. Like, it's over. It's a wrap. I'm leaving because
Yeah, I
you killed my
mean,
dad.
if it wasn't for her father's death, she wouldn't have left. No, I agree with that. Like I said, I think she knew, but I don't think she was listening completely to what he said. Like, there was a hint of disbelief. She involved herself as much as she needed to, but she was one of those lawyers where if it didn't involve her, she didn't want to know. And what he was saying was not part of what she wanted to know because it didn't involve her. Like, she was only working on a very specific part of the Babel case. And so but yeah, when once her father died and she realized that they were responsible for his death, it was all bets were off. It was like, oh, fuck you, I'm out. You think I'm actually going to continue to work here after y'all killed my dad? Like, we may have not been on the best terms, but he was still my dad. So, I think, and that was one of the things I loved about it also, is she remained very true to herself and who she was. Even though she went to her dad's law firm and she took up the cause of justice, she didn't become some sappy, emotional lawyer. She didn't try to make herself into a carbon copy of her dad. She found justice her own way. And it was kind of like that quote that, like, that her dad told Vincenzo. He didn't necessarily call her a monster. He just said that he said two things. He said that a monster could only a monster could take down only another monster could take down a monster like Babel. But he also knew his daughter would be a good lawyer in the justice world because she wouldn't be like overly sentimental like he was, or something to that effect. Because she was tenacious and she wasn't scared. So I love that she remained true to the type of lawyer that she was, and she wasn't above doing what needed to be done, this time in the name of justice. And the only thing that she did was she asked Vincenzo not to kill anybody. And he tried his best to hold true to that promise, even though he never, did you catch that he never fully agreed to it? It's like he just was like, oh, but he never said yes. He was just like, oh.
That's how you knew
Like,
he was gonna end up killing people.
yeah, because he looked at her like, you really asking me that? So I love that she stayed true to who she was, as a lawyer, as a person. It's like she never tried to fill her dad's footsteps. And that's a credit to the writing, because in some cases, like in some, I was thinking, God, maybe if this was a US drama or something like that, they would have tried to have her have this moment of epiphany where she realizes, I've been on the wrong side of this and I've been doing this wrong, and just try to go back to being something she wasn't. So I appreciate the fact that she was able to remain true to herself. And she never backed down to Mrs. Choi for 1 minute. It's like the gloves were off. And so I did appreciate her character. Like I told you before, I was never really fully sold on the love story between her and Vincenzo. I understand the attraction, but I was never. It didn't. Sometimes when you see it, it kind of is like, oh, I wish there was a way that they could have stayed together or what have you. Spoiler alert: they don't end up together, but they do admit that they love each other. That didn't bother me, and sometimes it would bother me, but I was, like I said, I was never just really sold on their love story. So
So where do you think the direction of Vincenzo changed? Because when he first came in, he was like all about his gold, and just doing whatever was necessary to get his $1.5 trillion out of basically the basement of the tower. So like, where was the moment where like he just switched and just decided like, okay, I'm all in taking this company down completely?
Um, I think there were several moments. I don't. It's kind of like it's kind of like the progression of he when he decided not to blow up the building. I think it was several things. I think it was seeing that that they had bought the building or stolen the building from underneath him since he was the true owner. Um, how the people in the building actually had started to become like family to him. Um, the death of her father, um, and I also think, so I think it was a culmination of those events, but I think the true moment of no return where you knew everybody was going to fucking die was when they killed his mom.
Hmm.
What about you? Where do you think it was?
I think it's when they killed the grieving family. Um,
Oh, yeah, I
yeah, like
forgot about
I
that.
think he was about getting back at them because when they stole the building from under him by threatening Troy's family, um, he was pissed. He was pissed, and he was doing little things to just get back at them because he wanted the building back, still to get the gold. Like he still was just all about getting the gold. That was the only reason why he really wanted the building back, was to get the gold.
Yeah, because he kept
But
trying to move the family out. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. No, you're fine. But I think that where it changed, where he stopped talking so much about getting the gold out, and he stopped talking about figuring out the whole building situation, was when they killed the grieving family. And when they killed the grieving family, like I felt like that was the moment where I knew all bets was off. Like he was gonna go full mafia on your ass. Like he was taking you all out, because it was like four people had no type of involvement whatsoever, like no type of involvement whatsoever. And just how they did it, like he was just like, oh yeah, I'm taking y'all all down. Like, and her looking at him was just like, kill them all. Like I felt like she gave him a look like, go for it. Like kind of thing. Like she verbally said it when they killed his mom. And she basically said like, make them pay. But before that, with the grieving family, it was the looks that like he was getting, like, okay, what are you going to do about this? Like it's now your time. Mafia, corn salad, come on out.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so I think that was where the direction of his purpose changed, from just wanting the gold to now being showing his investment in the people and the families.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't know how I forgot about that part, but yeah, I think so too. That was also a big culminating event where, I think at that point though, he was still okay with them, with making them pay, but I think he would have been okay with them just going to jail or losing everything. But once they killed his mom, oh, all of them were dying. He didn't care how he went about it. And it was basically like the point of no return because they both knew. And I think that's when he told her, I'm not going to be able to keep my promise. And she was like, that's cool. Like, I wouldn't ask you to at this point. So yeah. I Speaking of his mom, do you think she knew? She knew that was her son, didn't she?
She did. She wrote a letter. She told Cha Young.
That was her son.
Yeah,
That
she
was what
told
was
Cha Young.
I figured that was what was in the letter.
Yeah, that was in the letter. Because you remember, like later on, he reads the letter, and that's the letter that she gave to Cha Young, and basically told her to like give it to him at some point, along with the scarf that she made for him. So yeah, so she knew that that was her son. That's why she had that full. You remember the conversation when they were walking in the park and they stopped, and
And
she
they both
was,
started crying and
yeah, and
Vincenzo was
because
trying
she
to
was
make him cry.
talking, yeah, and she knew she was talking to her son. So everything that she was saying, it wasn't her just talking. Like she was saying it to him because she knew who he was. I think even when he first showed up at the hospital, when the dad went to go see her and he brought him along, I think she even knew then. I think that the dad had already told her who her son was. She already knew who her son was. She already knew what he looked like. She already knew his name. I felt that she already knew information about him, but she hadn't met him, and she didn't think she was ever going to meet him. That's why I felt the dad brought him there, because they both knew of each other, but they didn't know the other person knew.
Yeah. Um. So I was like, yeah. I was trying to figure out when she knew. I knew she knew. I just didn't quite know when. Um. I guess that makes sense. I think I know I definitely knew or had a sense that she knew when he went to tell her at the jail that no one would be coming to see her again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. And I kind of got the sense that she knew then. Which was which was what their second, third encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. But I'm glad that they got to know each other. But yeah, that just kind of goes to show how fucking psychotic Han Sok was. If he had to make
We
this
haven't
of a
even talked
series.
about him yet.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about him yet, who was also one of my favorite characters just from the fact that he was a pure villain. So Han Sok, think
No
of
redeeming qualities.
think of a Korean Dexter without Dexter's quote unquote moral code or moral compass. Okay. Like motherfucker was crazy. And a serial killer. He was.
He was a
But
so like remember when I was telling you, I said I always feel like sociopaths are more dangerous than psychopaths, because psychopaths are very public with their craziness, right? So you know what's coming. You know who's coming to get you. And you know what to avoid, because they're going to just automatically reveal themselves. You know they're crazy. You know, I'm gonna stay away from that psychopath because they're crazy. But a sociopath is more dangerous because he knew how to play the game. He knew how to present a very charming, intelligent, very good looking um, um, uh, presence. Wrong word, but presence in public. So people, believe this image that he put out there and these characteristics that he pretended to have. And that's what made him even more dangerous, because he knew how to play the game. He knew what would get people on his side, and he did it well. From when he played a little cute clumsy intern, and then when he went to be the CEO and he was dressing all nice. I still don't know how you can tell if somebody's intelligent from the suit they wear, but yeah, like he woohoo. He would have scared me. Like I'd have been like, yeah, I can't work for this. Nah, I'm out. I'm out.
yeah, like but at that point it becomes a matter of survival, because like you knew people who crossed him, even people who quit, like people who knew too much, they ended up dead. But yeah, he was gorgeous. And I have to say I wasn't surprised when it was revealed that he was the big bad, like when they flipped the script and he went from being just what we thought of as the clumsy intern to um the big bad, the evil genius behind it all. I I knew, like, I knew something was up with him. I'm not gonna say I knew exactly what it was. But I knew something was up with him when he did, as much as he loved her and or quote unquote professed to love her. As much, but as crazy as he was about her, um, you kind of got the fact that he was like, God, who was her father's assistant? What was his name?
Nah.
Mr. Nom. Yeah. You kind of got like he was her father's Mr. Nom. Like Mr. Nom would have followed her father anywhere. And that's what you kind of got from him. So when she left, I'm like, why didn't he leave with her? And so I was like, okay, what's up with that? So that was the first warning bell. Like, oh, okay. Like, why did he stay? Like, did he stay to be a spy? Like, what's, and I'm like, no, it's not that. Cause he probably would have had that conversation. So then when I did a double take though, because when we actually saw his face the first time he was dressed up when he went to meet his brother at that warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and it was the end of the episode, but his hair was different. And I'm like, whoa, is that? And so I rewound, I went back, I'm like, damn, he's fine. Like it Because, at first you just see him as the goofy intern. He was cute, okay?
He was
As
always cute, but when
Yeah,
he
as the
flipped his
goofy
hair
intern.
back,
Yeah, as the goofy intern, he was cute, okay? As the crazy CEO with the hair slicked back in that suit, I'm like, motherfucker is fine. And then I was like, oh shit, and he's psycho, but he fine. So that was my that was my first. I was like, shit. But
look, okay, on a side note, because I told Eddie this when we were first talking about like how good looking like he was, is that like we've talked about this multiple times. In Korea, they have to do mandatory enlistment in the military for 2 years. And I just want to say, this is to tell you how amazingly good looking, and as well as we didn't see it, but his body is ridiculous.
we did see it when he went to take a bath. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, right. But when he enlisted in the military, right? He was called Captain Korea. Okay, so like just think of Chris Evans, but the Asian version of Chris Evans, as good looking, and the body that he had, like that was Taekyon, who is the actor who plays Han Sok, the basically like ultimate villain of for Vincenzo. But yeah, so like just imagine, like, yes, he is that good looking. Like that's the reason why we're we're talking about this right now, y'all.
Yeah, like yeah, he could have got it. I don't care if he crazy or not. He could have got it.
Ladies, he is taken. He's been in a long-term relationship for years.
He could get it. No
Get it on the
disrespect.
side. Get it on the
She's a lucky
side.
woman because he's just that. But yeah, but aside from the fact of him yeah, but that was my initial response, was like, oh, and then I was like, so once I got over that, damn, he's fine moment, I'm like, so that's why he didn't go. Like it made sense to me why he didn't go. And then the progression of him. And one thing I loved is I loved how they also developed his character. Like you knew something was up because of just all the shit that the company was involved in and all the horrible stuff that they did. And but the progression of him just going from kind of crazy to crazy to crazy to crazier, so you just kind of see him become more and more unhinged as you go along. And at first you could tell that he did have respect for Vincenzo, and to him it was more like a game at first, because Vincenzo was someone who kind of like Mrs. Choi, who he felt like was on his level. um and that was a sick relationship too. That was like
Well,
a
do you
crazy.
think that that is what brought his cycle out? Because he had basically like he did let it out like in private, but to then like go full force with his psycho, do you think it's because he had the full support of Choi, of Miss Choi, that like he went full psycho? um and like just because he felt like he was able to do whatever he want because she encouraged it, because I felt like she so encouraged his psycho, because she was just as crazy, so she encouraged his psychoness. So
I do. I think whereas Vincenzo was the brother that Han Solo never had and always wanted, and he was the family that he so desperately was yearning for and needing. I think Mrs. Choi filled that mother role for Han Solo, because you never heard really about Han Solo's mom or what happened when she found out. Like you get the idea that the brothers were raised together. So did his father leave his mom for her mom, for Han Solo's mom? Like, you know,
I got that feeling
yeah,
based on like how he treated his brother and everything. Like I felt like that was part of his psych, like that was part of like his sociopathic tendencies and everything, was the fact that maybe his dad did leave his mom, or maybe his mom died when he was really young, and then his dad just automatically brought, because you could tell like him and his brother was only a couple years apart.
yeah. So
So
whatever happened, that Han Solo's mom was the mother figure in his life, and he didn't appreciate that. Like they never really got along. And so I think Mrs. Choi represented like for him, like someone who would accept him for who he was, because once his dad found out he was crazy, he just kind of threw money at the problem and sent him away, um, to the land of serial killers known as the United States.
Shit, really, Eddie?
Well, that's what it made it seem like. Shit, it's like, oh, you're
You got a
psychotic.
problem?
Let me
Send
send
them
you.
to America.
Thank you. You're psychotic. Don't let me. We're not going to send you there to seek help. We're going to send you there to continue on doing what you do.
Just in another country. America looks
Yeah.
like they can handle that.
Yeah. So but yeah, so I think she did. I think she allowed him. He felt comfortable enough to be himself, and she encouraged it, and she didn't try to tamp it down. And because once he took, it was funny because when she left the prosecutor's office, they initially told her, "Oh, you're just gonna go be Wu Sang's dog on their leash," and she's like, "Well, at least it's a longer leash." But Han Sok unleashed her. And so it's like, fuck, I can finally be who I am now. And so it's like they unleashed each other. So yeah, it was just a sick mother-son relationship. It was
horrible.
toxic.
The worst.
Now, so we really haven't talked about the man, Vincenzo. He was also very gorgeous himself.
Song Chunky.
Yeah, smooth as Italian corn salad. I say that because when they find out, they can't pronounce consigliere at first, so they're like corn salad. And but I loved him, and I loved the moments where where we actually got to see him be who he was. And I also love the fact that no one tried to change him. Even her father didn't try to change him in who he was. He was like, sometimes you have to be a monster to fight these monsters, And he's like, I wish. And it seems like if he hadn't died, he was kind of hinting at, like, I know who you really are. Because when they were talking about, he goes, you wouldn't happen to know anybody like that, would you? And Vincenzo just kind of looked like, you know. But I love that even Mr. Talk, where you were thinking the reformed gangster was going to tell him, and Mr. Talk said, no, don't stop being who you are. You need to be who you are. He was like, this quiet life isn't all it's cracked up to be. And then even the Buddhist monk was like, look, you may have done too much bad you may have done too much bad to ever actually be Buddha or reach Buddha. But he was telling him about, I called him Buddha's bulldog. The one of his four protectors who was actually the one that went out and did the bad stuff in the name of the good. So I was like, oh, okay. But I loved Vincenzo, and I loved when he went full gangster. That's just I was crazy about. I loved it. And I want to. I'm just gonna go ahead and beat you to the punch. I want a second season of Vincenzo. I also want a prequel. I really, really want to see his life growing up in Italy, how he becomes the consigliere.
True, I agree.
Because just the snapshots that we got, it's like he was a bad mofo, like for real, like yeah. But I would love to see a prequel to his life, to his story, about how he became Vincenzo. I think that would be so interesting. I'm sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, okay.
Oh, so overall, would you want to see a second season?
No, I'm okay. Actually, like, I thought I would, but I actually, like, after like rewatching it again, I think it ended in a really good way, and I wouldn't want the image that I have to be destroyed by giving me more, because I feel like as an American, I always want more. And I'm just like, well, it's so good. So like, give it a second season, but like, I feel like a second season would destroy the perfection of the first season. Like it would destroy the perfection of the series. Because then season 2 would lead to season 3 and 4. And then there's a never ending cycle. And then it turns out to be trash. And then you forget about the amazingness that was season 1. So, although I would love to have more Vincenzo because it was absolutely phenomenal. It's one of my favorite dramas. No, I'm okay with it ending the way that it did. I thought it was a really good ending. And I don't know. I think I also like the mystery of his past now, of not necessarily knowing how he got to where he was, but seeing how badass he was in the present, kind of thing.
Well, I'm going to disagree, obviously. I do want a season, and I agree with you. Sometimes things do tend to go on too long, and I really think that limited series like this, it's a good 5 season run if it goes on that far. But or it doesn't even have to continue to tell the same story. They could find a completely different story just around Vincenzo. Like it wouldn't even have to include the same characters. The Gugumo Cassano, what was it? The Cassano Gugumo crime family. I could even do a spinoff with them. They were like hilarious. I know they weren't your favorites, but they were funny to me. I enjoyed them. I would love to see a prequel to tell the story of Vincenzo, just because I think it's so interesting, especially about how once he was adopted by his family, what happens to them, and then how he ends up being taken in by the mob or the mafia. I'm sorry, the mob is American, by the Italian, by the head of the Cassano family. So I would definitely like to see either or both of those things happen. Um, what is your official rating for Vincenzo?
I am going to give Vincenzo a 4.75. I think, nope, there's somebody who's had a 5 before from me. I
Who?
think so. I'm thinking, but I can't remember. But I feel like I've given
Because
out a
it's
5
because
popcorn
it's never
rating.
happened.
It hasn't?
I
Really?
don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give Vincenzo a 4.75. Like when I mean that I completely love this series from beginning to end. And sometimes with these kinds of series, I don't really like rewatching it. So I'll just kind of like fast forward through episodes just to write down like my notes on different scenes. But no, when I mean like I sat there and I watched all 20 episodes again, I watched all 20 episodes again from beginning to end. So it was absolutely phenomenal. Like I advise everybody to watch Vincenzo. Like I even got my sister to watch it, and she was just like, no, I can't watch this because I just cannot read. I just cannot be reading my television. So I was like, okay, all right, well, you don't have to watch it. But I did get her through the first episode. And then also she calls me later and she's just like, why am I sitting here watching the second episode and reading the screen? And I was just like, because it's good, right? And she was just like, it is, but it's going to take me forever to finish it. But she actually enjoyed what she was watching. She just hated the subtitles. So yes, the subtitles does take some getting used to, believe me. I know. But now like I'm a pro at it. But yeah, I do recommend this. Like it's an amazing storyline, I think is what it is. If you just take out the fact that it's in Korean, the acting and the storyline is phenomenal. Like if this was an American show that we did not like destroy, because we like to destroy things when we make them, but if we just kept the authenticity of it, then I feel that this would be a very successful limited series, right? That's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a very successful limited series. It was so good. So 4.75 popcorns is that, I just happened to bump into Eddie as I was turning around to go into the theater, and some of the popcorn fell on the floor, but I still got my full bucket out, y'all. That's how good it is.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5. 4.5 popcorns, and that's only because the scene with Inzaghi, which we never talked about the bird. The scene with the birds that threw me off. That was kind of crazy, and I was like, oh, gosh. But so other than
It's the
that,
same thing as the modeling. We never talked about the funny moments. I'm sorry. We never talked about the funny moments that they had in the show. But like the one scene where the guy in the white who always wears white, like ask him for the favor or his wish, and he comes and he says, okay, let's start taking pictures. And Vincenzo's like, no, give it here. No, give it here. And he's posing.
oh yeah,
And I was just like, how ridiculous is that scene? But at the same time, it's just like, it's cool. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah,
sorry, go
or
ahead.
Tay-ho, Tay-ho. Those are some of the Ocean's 11 moments, which we really didn't get to. Like
We
Vincenzo,
did not talk about the
we
funny
could
moments.
probably do a series on Vincenzo. Like this would, if we talked about all the greatness, it would probably take at least two
Okay,
episodes.
wait. I feel like I'm so sorry, Eddie. I'm so sorry. Like, can I just name one more? When her dad decides to give up his parental rights when she's a grown ass woman.
Oh yes, that was hilarious. And she's like, "What?"
She's like, it makes no sense. He's like, stop calling me. I don't want to hear it.
Like her, you could tell her and her dad really loved each other. They just drove each other crazy. But their relationship was so cute. It was so funny.
It was amazing. But I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm just thinking of it now, and I'm just like that was the first episode, y'all, and I was cracking up with that scene where he gives up his parental rights for his grown ass daughter. Like she's 20, like she's probably like 30, 31 years old, and he's decided that he's no longer her father. But go ahead. I'm sorry, your rating.
Yeah. So I give it 4.5. The scene with I loved his relationship with Inzaghi, the bird, named after an Italian soccer star. But when all the birds just come around, I'm like, okay, is this Alfred Hitchcock? Like, what the hell? It was just too. It was weird. That was like my least favorite scene, but I understood it. Um, so I give it a 4.5. I give it a 4.5. It is definitely on my rewatch list, and I'm not one to where I really don't like rewatching a lot of things, movies, TV shows, whatever. So it is something that I will definitely rewatch. And it is an amazing show, and I on and this is one of the reasons why I kind of wish they would dub Korean um shows and movies, is because especially the more popular they become, we are Americans are the stubborn ones. And as soon as I tell everyone, they're like, oh, sounds good. And I'm like, Korean, no, I'm not going to watch it because they don't want to read the subtitles. So I just figure if they dubbed a little bit more, it would help. But anyway,
It was a hit, and it was an international hit with subtitles. Like when I
I
mean it was one of the most popular series on Netflix with subtitles. So I think people are also warming up to the fact that you kind of gotta convert to doing that rather than them trying to convert to you. They're trying to pull you in with their language rather than having to convert to our language kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, some are and some aren't. And for those, and I'm not saying take them away, but I'm just saying make dubbing an option. I'm not saying dub everything automatically because I would still read the subtitles. Like I watch other international shows with subtitles, and that's fine. It doesn't bother me anymore. After Parasite, I was over it. After Itaewon Class, I was definitely over it. So it's just one of those things that I'm just saying for everyone else. Um, you know, all right, so that does it for this week's episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Be sure to join us next week when we will be discussing. Oh my goodness, what is on the calendar for next week?
Chicago PD.
Chicago PD, this amazing season of Chicago PD. And we will talk all about how they met the moment, the real life social justice moment, and if it was a success or not. But until then, be sure to check us out daily on the popcornwinddown.com. At the popcornwinddown.com, check out the daily wind down for your latest in entertainment and pop culture news. That's the plug. Pop, pop, pop. And also be sure to catch up on any of the Popcast episodes you may have missed at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. Like, share, comment, rate. Please listen. Thank you. And until next time, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.